Firewatch is a first-person adventure game developed by Campo Santo for PS4, PC, Mac, and Linux. Released in February of 2016 to an impressive amount of praise, the likes of which haven't been seen since Telltale's Walking Dead series, which isn't surprising because the lead developer is part of Campo Santo. Firewatch was announced 3 years prior to its highly anticipated release, and I'm astounded I was completely oblivious to its existence. What was I doing in 2013 that would account for me missing this? Fuck! Oh yeah, well, Firewatch was a game I went into completely blind. I didn't know a shred of info about the story or the format, I just knew it was an indie game with a lot of good reviews. I have this feeling that if this sort of game is what really speaks to you, it will be most effective the less you know about it. So, please enjoy this video of me telling you about it. Look, we don't have to talk about Firewatch. We could play Slaughtered Roommates.
What the hell you're talking about?
I know that one of you has a boyfriend that has my drugs!
Look, I don't feel good about making you watch that, but I like to think we learned a valuable lesson from it. 2 minutes into Firewatch, and I knew I was in for something special. The opening sequence, which is essentially text-based, goes straight for the heartstrings. We learn about our main character Henry and his courting of Julia, the woman he goes on to marry and spend a life with, and this is all sort of guided by a few choices you get to make about the nature of Henry's character. These choices don't inhibit any strong changes in the narrative, but they allow you to impart a small bit of your own thinking into the plot. No matter what you choose, however, Henry and Julia's relationship begins to strain and fall apart, and in an effort to escape his pain, Henry takes a job manning a fire lookout post in the Shoshone National Forest in Wyoming. Henry is immediately introduced via radio to his boss, Delilah.
It's Henry, right?
Yeah.
I'm Delilah.
Yeah, that's what the guy said on the phone.
So, what's wrong with you?
The growing relationship between Henry and Delilah is the heartbeat of this game, and the most enjoyable aspect for me. The humanity and realism in their conversations was wonderful. There is a competency to its writing and atmosphere that is leaps and bounds ahead of most AAA titles out there. Though I have my share of issues with the plot, I have a lot of respect for the way Firewatch expertly immersed me and had me empathizing with its characters. It's a difficult thing to accomplish with someone like me. God damn it!
Henry, there's something someone should have told you about this area.
What is it?
It's outside.
Come on.
The whole thing.
This feeling is sort of the best thing I can get out of a game. In terms of what I play games for, this feeling, this place I got to, is the holy grail for me. It's the best possible outcome. Having said that incredibly hyperbolic statement, I'd be lying if I said that I didn't notice that feeling start to slip away the further into Firewatch I got. Firewatch seems to be two different stories. One I was interested in, which is the very touching slice of life drama. One I was less interested in, which was the mystery element. It got to a point where I noticed the latter outpacing the former. And when I was starting to get on board with the mystery taking center stage, the ending comes and left me feeling like neither story is really wrapped up in a satisfying manner. I legitimately feel like an asshole for not liking the end of this game, and I'm pretty sure I'm completely wrong and the subtle commentary on escapism went right over my head, but I feel like what should have been a strong emotional payoff was distracted by a sudden shift in genre. I strongly suggest going into this as blind as possible. It's a strong, emotional story with some great tension and intrigue that builds to a truly polarizing conclusion, but it's definitely worth the 4 or 5 hours to experience Firewatch. Nailed it! Firewatch's gameplay has had terms like walking simulator and visual novel thrown at it, in what I can only assume is a derogatory sense. It's not too far from the truth though. There are many ways you can interact with the environment, and times when the area feels so sprawling that you begin to think you're not on rails. Sure, you can take detours and find little Easter eggs or extra dialogue, but this is not an open world adventure. You're going to be sticking to predetermined trails, and most attempts to forge your own path are met with invisible walls, or knee-high obstacles you can't circumnavigate. This was never a problem for me because the illusion of free will was so strong. I felt like I was on my own, and I could get lost in this forest, even though it would be difficult to accomplish. Navigating with the map and compass feels good, and it's easy to comprehend. It was frustrating that you can't comfortably look at the map while walking, but I suppose if you could, you'd be compelled to experience the whole game with your face in the map and not enjoying the beautiful environments. It's a real considerate feature that you can see a short trail behind you on the map so you know which direction you came from. I don't know how this feels on a console, but the button layout for controlling your radio and choosing dialogue options feels really natural and comfortable. I started playing Far Cry Primal afterwards and had to break myself out of the routine of using Firewatch's controls. I can respect Campo Santo for sticking to one complete unchanging narrative, but I also feel like this is one game that would have really benefited from meaningful choices. No matter what you say or do in Firewatch, the outcome is always the same: take or leave a line of dialogue. Much like the illusion of open world, there is an illusion of your effect on the story that is simply not true. You are not Henry, and you can't impart any decisions into Henry. Right from the beginning, it's clear that Henry is going to do what Henry wants. It's a series of constants and variables, and you're in charge of the trivial variables. It's easy to empathize with Henry though, and the opening makes a point to say that this is you doing this. You are choosing to do this, but really you're not.
Commutes back and forth? These are not good compromises!
Though there is nothing wrong with having one story that plays out in one way, it did prove to be disappointing that we were given choices, but the world was not affected by them. Like the camera you get at one point, which you are encouraged by Delilah to use to gather evidence.
Actually, you've got that camera, right? It might be a good idea to get a few snaps, just in case.
Yeah, good thinking.
But you're not actually gathering evidence. More like it becomes a cute little callback later on. That might have been interesting. If you're okay playing a game that isn't intensely interactive, i.e. no combat or puzzles, then this is a pretty streamlined example of that. Most of my issues seem to be related to things that were a result of budgetary or graphic limitations. It's still impressive what was accomplished, and if anything, because it was such a high quality experience, when the assumptions I made about the depth and complexity of the gameplay weren't met, I was disappointed. I somehow managed to overhype a game I had only found out about minutes before playing. The first step of Firewatch's development was its aesthetic, and it does stand out next to a lot of indie titles, thanks to the work of Ollie Moss. It has a very appealing style that borrows from the bold colors and clean imagery of New Deal era posters. Every shot in this game could be a desktop background. It's truly gorgeous. Henry is the person we see the most of, and from what I can surmise from his perspective, character models are similarly stylized and almost resemble something from a Pixar movie, as well as Team Fortress 2, which has similar inspiration. Though one could give a story explanation for the lack of characters, it's more likely that it would have been too risky and too expensive to animate and lip sync these characters in the Unity engine. I enjoy all the little details in Henry's tower and other camps you come across. They feel lived in and not consciously put together. Lots of stuff that expands the story or the mindset of the characters can easily be passed over if you don't take some time to rifle through people's belongings. But thankfully that's my jam. I can't say enough good things about the voice acting. Despite being styled in a hyper-realistic way, Firewatch features some of the most human and genuine sounding acting out there. It's immediately believable, and at least in my case, helped inhibit a very real concern for Henry and Delilah. The flow and cadence of their conversations feel so unscripted and natural that I easily felt a lot of what Henry must have felt. Without spoiling anything, there's a moment where you have to break some bad news to Delilah, and I struggled in completing this task because I didn't want to upset her.
Hey, I'm sorry, Delilah. I'm so sorry.
About what? You're freaking me out.
It dug up all too real emotions that I forgot I had after years of numbing myself to them. The soundtrack is composed by Chris Remo, who is also responsible for the Gone Home soundtrack. While both soundtracks have a similar light but melancholy sound, this score is appropriately a little more earthy and acoustic. I can't think of a better fitting musical accompaniment to being isolated in the wilderness. Soundtracks are important to me emotionally, so it's nice that some real care was put into making something that really pairs with the visuals and story. I don't have anything bad to say about Firewatch from an audio-visual perspective, other than I guess I just wanted more of all of it, and I don't know how valid a complaint that is. I always want too much. I think that's a problem of mine. No matter what I say against Firewatch, it's an experience that will stay with me for a long time. There are parts of Firewatch that really excited me in a way I don't think I've felt in a long time, and parts that I thought were masterfully done, near perfect. But there are also parts of Firewatch that I feel work to devalue the game entirely. The character development is incredible, and Campo Santo have created two very likable and relatable characters. They also managed to build a truly engrossing thriller on top of that. I just think the way it pans out is sort of regrettable. I know there are many out there that absolutely love the ending, and I'm sure they will tell you, get it, in a way I don't. I think I understand Firewatch as much as you can. It just didn't pay off for me. I don't even think the last third of the game is fundamentally flawed, but its execution was lackluster. I still absolutely think this game needs to be seen, and there are tons of people that will appreciate it. The dialogue, the scenery, the music is all near perfect, and I can't take that away from it. I can't stay upset at it when there are so many other things that work so well. It almost made me want to go camping, and if the events of 2013 come up again, I might have to.
Do it now! Knock each other out!
Alright.
You were sick, you know that? You two are sick! Alright, I like this. Do it. Closer. Breathe. Let me hear you breathe! Come on. There, put your hand up there. Breathe. Let me hear somebody. I want to hear you breathe.